This is how I would introduce or review barred instruments with my students. I would take my instrument and I would turn it around so that it matched the direction of their instrument. So that my low end was on this side, which would be opposite, but that was the side that was for them. And there's different ways of thinking about that, but I did it because I could take this hand and say, point to this wall, and then that's what we're gonna play, rather than talking about left and right, and mine looks switched because I'm facing you. It just was easier for me to do it this way. As the kids got older, I could go ahead and play it in the correct position, but I generally reviewed and started out this way with my instrument turned backwards. So here's what I would do. I start out with one mallet and I would say, point to the ceiling, point to the door, point to the ceiling, point to the window, ceiling, window. On that side, look at that bar that's really long that says C on it. My turn, your turn. Long, 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 low C. They would echo. Long, 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 low C. C, C, long, low C. Itty bitty A, itty bitty A. Itty bitty A, itty bitty A. Then I might use both hands, but I wouldn't say anything to them about which hand to use. They could do it however they wanted to. C, C, big long C. And they would echo. Itty bitty A, itty bitty A. C in the middle, C in the middle. Long, low C, long, low C. Left, right, left, right, left, right, C. C in the middle, C in the middle. Left, right, left, right, left, right, C. Itty bitty A, itty bitty A. High, high A, low, low C. Low, low C, C in the middle. I would keep going back and forth using my low end and my high end and my middle, just those three areas. And I would use the octave Cs because that ends up being an important concept, the octave. But I would just use my two ends over and over and over again. Now I would get into more of some stepwise movement. So I would go back to C, C, long, low C, C, D, E, F, and they would repeat. And I'd make it real obvious when it was time for, it's my turn, their turn, always in those little 4-beat phrases. C, D, E, F, G. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. D, E, F, G, A. And I'd use the whole instrument. All right, then the next thing I would do, I'd say, let's start on big, long, low C over by the windows. And very slowly, let's play one note at a time until we get all the way up to itty bitty A. We need to stay together. Here we go. C, D, oops, I forgot something important. Make sure you say the names of the letter. You can see them on your instrument. Don't play where you see the letters. Play in the middle of the bar. So I would show them, don't play on the ends, play in the middle, because sometimes they think the middle is the middle of the instrument, the middle of the bar, and I would show that to them. All right, here we go. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then I found it was really important. I didn't do this for many years, but I found out then I needed to give them practice time. I said, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to figure that out yourself and see if you can't start from high A and go down to low C. After practice time, one of my essential agreements was sing, play, and speak beautifully. So if I caught the occasional child who was making loud noises, I would look at them and I would decide, are they doing that because they have poor motor control, which happens ever so often, that they just have such poor motor control that they hit it too hard because of that. But if I know it's for attention seeking, I would say to someone who's doing it correctly, I really like how you're doing it. Will you remind everybody about our essential agreement of how to play? And they would say, beautifully. I thank you. Let's see who can play it beautifully. And then we go back to playing it again. C, D, E. All right, the next point I would make would be, I would correct some of their playing technique. So I would say to them, this is not like playing baseball. You're not winding up to make a pitch. I said it's more like basketball. And in basketball, if this is the basketball, if you're a person who dribbles high, what's going to happen? Oh, they're going to steal it. And I go, yes, it's the same in music. So you want your basketball to bounce a little bit, but not too much. And this got away from, I shouldn't see your arms going up and down, but more of a wrist action. That was one way I did it. If they continued to have problems, I would take a piece of paper or anything, and as they played, I'd walk around the room and I'd put a piece of cardboard or whatever over them. And if they had a tendency to do that, they would keep hitting this, and they'd soon realize they had to keep it low. Well, then you have your people who keep it too low, and they're doing this. So you have to say, you have to get a bounce on it. You have to get a bounce on it. Really practice bouncing. And I talked a lot about it's on fire and you want it to go on and off really quickly. And it just took some of them practice to get a bounce. It just took some practice to get the bounce. I'm not exactly sure why. They weren't doing it on purpose. I think in some ways they were being very careful. And I would say, you want it to ring. I said, when you let it sit there, you're stopping the vibrations. You want it to ring with a little bounce. Let it ring with a little bounce. And I give them practice time to do that. And a next step is you don't have to have any music for any of this. Just take a poem and you're still like in a diatonic situation. You haven't taken any bars off or anything, but Fuzzy Wuzzy works really well. So I would say, we would first, of course, we clap or pat Fuzzy Wuzzy, make sure they knew it. And then I'd say, take one hand, I said, I don't care which one, and put it in your lap, and you're gonna play with the other hand. And here we go. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy. I said, we only have one bar left, and we have two words, so let's just play it twice. Was he? And then I give them practice time. You can do it with any poem and figure out where it falls in the back and forth of the bars. Then I'd say, okay, now switch hands. Put that hand in your lap and play with your other hand. Fuzzy Wuzzy, back and forth. All right, then I'd say, now I want you to play with both hands. And I would say, I want you to start out with your mallets straight ahead. Don't cross, because they want to start with their right hand. And it gives a crossed starting position. So I said, start with your arms straight. That's going to be your left hand starting first. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't. And there's some sticking in there that I didn't talk to him about necessarily, but if we get to Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear, can I repeat that same hand? Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Probably be better, because then I don't get into a cross situation up there. So I just talked about how they begin, don't begin in a crossed position. And then I would say, definitely practice time here, because playing with two hands is very challenging for some kids. And I would give them that practice time. Then I'd say, instead of going low to high and back down, what if we play it high to low and end up high? And then you can get into situations where you're playing it in on a pentatonic scale, and then you have to make choices about how it's going to go. And right there, you have the most amazing creative process for kids to figure out how they want to play Fuzzy Wuzzy or whatever poem it is. So if you're going to set them up in a pentatonic, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a pear, Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair, Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy. That works pretty well, but you can ask them to create a song. They can create something with a partner. They could create something. Or you can get to the place where you open it up and have them improvise, where they start on big, long, low C and end on big, long, low C. Or depending on if you're going to play it in a do-based or a la-based pentatonic, how you want it to go. The possibilities are endless. I haven't bought one piece of music. I've used a poem. They're creating, they're composing, they're improvising. They're doing all this, and they are enthralled with the creation process. Then once they're going on it, I'd say, all right, I'm going to be your backup band, and I'm going to play, and I want all of you to play what you figured out for Fuzzy Wuzzy. I said, wait for me to say go. 1, 2, ready, go. And then they play, and the sound is gorgeous and magnificent. If you don't have enough instruments for everybody, what you can do is say, when the first person is finished, give the mallets to your partner, and partners wait for me to say go. So I will go 1, 2, ready, go. The first person will play, wasn't fuzzy, was he? And then the next people would be changing with the mallets, and I'd go 1, 2, partners go. And they would take off going, and you have this immediate switch, and they're playing for what, 20 seconds, and then they make a switch. Then you can do so many arranging sorts of things and tone color. You can put the form up on the board, and you can say, woods, play your Fuzzy Wuzzy first, metals play second, and then the third time is tutti. Everybody plays together, and I'm your backup band. So I'll go 1, 2, woods, go. And they take off playing. When they're done, I go 1, 2, metals, go. And they take off playing. When they're done, I go 1, 2, everybody go. And we play. And when they get to the end, I might go. I said I just had to put that little special ending, that coda on there, to make for a fabulous performance. So then I said, do you think we can do exactly that same thing, but me not talk? I said, will you remember that I'm your band and I've got the 1, 2, ready, go. Will you remember that? Yes, we'll remember that. And so then we do our big arrangement, and I say, well, your teacher has to hear this. So when the teacher would come to pick them up, I'd go, we have a performance for you, and we would play right then and there. All right. You've got woods and metals and then tutti, everybody playing, but you can also do solos. So the arrangement can be solo and tutti. So you can have a solo person, tutti, another solo, and there are 5 million of them who want to do a solo. And that brings me to another point. Initially, before we get into that form, I have everybody take a solo. I had my kids sitting in rows, and generally they were in 4 rows, or I had a U shape for the instruments on carts, And the people on the floor would be the soprano, xylophones, and glocks, although I mainly used wood instruments a lot of times. So my differentiation there was the voicings. So I would say sopranos go first, altos and basses go second, tutti is everybody. Whatever you use, whatever you have, you use, but I love just wooden and no metals. But anyway, so I would say, would you be willing to go first? And I'd look at that first person, and they'd say yes or no, or I'd go to somebody else, whatever, on an end. And then I'd say, all right, we're going to go in a serpentine. Serpent means snake. We're going to go in a serpentine direction. So we're going to start here, and then we're going to go down the next row, and the next row, and then the next row. Or I would talk about the U, or however we were going to go. And I'd say, and everybody's going to play their Fuzzy Wuzzy. And I said, now, if you feel like you don't have one yet, I go, would it be okay if you played Fuzzy Wuzzy all on one note? They'd go, no. I go, yes, it's fine. If you want to play it all on one note, you are more than welcome to. It's fine. And so I go, here we go. You're going to go first. And when that person finishes, the next person begins. I'm not going to say go. You can begin whenever you want to when the next person finishes. So I'd say 1, 2, ready, go. And the first person would start. And I would have to adjust sometimes. And I would pick it back up depending on if they missed a rhythm or whatever, and to make them all sound absolutely gorgeous. And then, wasn't very fuzzy, was he? The next person, I would just keep playing until they went. And I would look at the next person with a smile on my face that, yes, it was their turn and they were ready to go. And they would go next. And it took a while to get through everybody, but it was certainly worth it. And I learned a lot. And there was always a student or two who would play all on one note, and there was always a student or two who would play. You see such decisions based on how comfortable they felt or how much they wanted to show you their creativity or how creative they were, how they thought outside the box. I even had some who would do they would use the instrument as percussively. So you learn so much about it. And we still are on Fuzzy Wuzzy, and we've done a billion things that are so worthy and so fun to do. I think there's probably lots more I could say, but I think that'll be it for this time. Thanks.